guys, welcome back. Today I have a fantastic pediatric nutritionist here with me, Nicole Meadow.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're really glad that you're here because we really want to help those parents at home with all of that conflicting and varying information about how to introduce solids. So Nicole's going to give us some great nuggets today, just how to do that. Let's start with when is the right time, the best time to introduce solids?
I like to think about introducing solids as developmental readiness rather than age.
Okay.
So there are 4 things that I like to think about. When babies are ready to sit up unassisted, when they lose their tongue thrust, so they're not pushing the foods or the spoon out of their mouth, when they have their pincer grasp rather than their palmar grasp, and when you bring them to the table and they're really interested at what you're eating. So they're looking around, they're opening their mouth, and you see that they want to eat. So these are the things that I'm looking at for developmental readiness. And this usually happens around like 5 to 6 months of age. It's a really exciting time.
Definitely, and you can see them a lot sturdier and more ready for those solids. One of the things that happens a lot is around the 4-month mark, sleep gets kind of challenging and a little crazy.
Definitely.
I would say it's harder than the newborn sleep.
Yes.
But I always get in my groups over the last several years, pediatricians saying, then start solids at 4 months to help sleep, or put some, rice cereal in the bottle to help sleep. And I feel like I'm always combating sharing with moms like solids don't equate to better sleep, and that 4-month-olds traditionally, developmentally, are not ready for solids. So is there anything you can kind of add on to that would kind of educate our parents really why that's not the best?
Well, we know sleep is a developmental issue, and at 4 months, babies are just not ready in their digestive system for solids. They don't have the proper enzymes to break down solid foods, so putting rice cereal or any other type of cereal in a bottle is just not recommended. We always want babies to be introduced to solid foods on a spoon.
And speaking of introducing it on a spoon, what is the best way to introduce a solid?
We want them to be sitting in a high chair.
Right.
So they're sitting up, they're properly supported, sitting in a high chair. We always recommend introducing solids in the morning time. So that way, if they were to have any signs or symptoms of an allergic reaction or any type of reaction, we'd be able to see it throughout the day.
Right.
We typically wait about 3 or 4 days in between introducing new foods. So that way, if they were to have an allergic reaction, you would know which food caused it. If you introduce more than one at a time, then you wouldn't know what's what. You'd have to kind of go back and scratch everything out. We always introduce it, like I just said, on a spoon, and trying to keep it consistent. So if you introduce it in the morning, stick with the morning until your baby's on a more than 1 meal a day schedule.
What is the best food to start with?
We used to think that it was only rice cereal.
Correct.
And now we're looking at different types of foods that are really good for babies to start with. So we know that their iron stores are starting to deplete at that time. So we're looking at potentially iron-rich foods being a good place to start. So maybe even starting with beans or chicken or eggs as a place to start. A lot of times I like to start with just fruits and vegetables and working your way through some fruits and vegetables first, and then moving right on to those iron-rich foods when they kind of, get their groove going with the fruits and vegetables.
Right.
But we definitely want to get those iron-rich foods in kind of quickly after, getting going with the fruits and vegetables.
Used to the process.
Exactly. Getting used to how to move their mouth.
Right.
Really liking the process of eating.
Right.
Because their iron does deplete, and we do want to get some iron in there.
How often and how much should you be feeding the babies?
When you start, you really want to feed them once a day. And just really knowing that every baby's going to take a little bit of a different amount, and you want to go with your baby's cues.
I know one of the things I did with my daughters was kind of dab a little bit of the new food on their lip. They would then lick it and get that taste, and then they would decide to open their mouth, which would cue me to go ahead and spoon it in, and then if they closed their mouth or turned away, I would stop. So from the beginning, you're creating this really healthy flow of how to cue food between the two of you at the table.
Which is perfect, because babies are born with an innate ability to regulate their own hunger and satiety, which basically means that they know when they're hungry and when they know when they're full. So we don't want to kind of like mess around with that. If we're, pushing the spoon in and saying, no, take 2 more bites,
right,
we're kind of telling them that they don't know when they're full, and we don't want to do that.
And when babies are ready, when you start to feed the food to them and they're exploring that taste, they make some very interesting facial expressions. Can you kind of help explain what's going on?
We know that when we introduce a new food to a baby, it can take 10 or maybe even 15 times of introducing the same...
Separate times, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
of introducing the same food before a baby might actually develop a preference. So we don't want one facial expression to say, don't introduce that to me again.
Right. One of the things I've kind of taught my moms and encouraged them to do is when the baby makes a very bizarre face, the mom's natural instinct to say, oh, you don't like that. And to help the moms kind of perceive it more as they haven't learned that new taste yet.
Exactly.
So it's a very different way of responding to solids to keep things in the rotation and getting them used to those tastes as well.
And even giving them different words like, oh, that's new for you.
Exactly. There's so much information about solids. I would love it if you join us again next time to help us continue to tackle this huge topic.
I would love it. That'd be great.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.